Wounds, wisdom, and the word. Wounds, wisdom, and the word. Now here are your hosts, Jamie and Doug.
All right, guys, welcome to Wounds, Wisdom, and the Word. My name is Doug Gregory, and this is Jamie Shepard, and I'm glad you have joined us today for this podcast. I hope you are doing well. Just real quick, as we get started, this is the first episode we've ever done, and you're probably clicked on this and thinking, why in the world would I even want to listen to these guys talk? And this podcast really is for people who are struggling, and even more specifically, maybe Christians who are struggling. If you consider that to be yourself, then you are in the right place. This is not a podcast where we're going to tell you, well, you just need some more faith, or you need to pray a little harder, or, our goal with this is to talk about real life issues and struggles. And to more than anything else, we hope that when you listen to this episode or any one of our episodes, that you can come away with some hope. Hope is a powerful, powerful thing. Sometimes hope is just knowing that. Do what, Jamie?
I said amen to that.
Sometimes hope is just knowing that you're not alone. I think Satan sometimes loves nothing more than to tell you you're the only one. You're the only one who's ever been through this. Nobody knows what it's like. You know, the old song, nobody knows the troubles I've seen. Yes, they do. Yeah. People have got the t-shirt and wore it out, and there's somebody else going through the same thing at the same time. So, like I say, if you ask me the overall purpose of this, I want to give people hope. Now, kind of get started, why this podcast? There's a blue million podcasts in the world, and why another one? And Jamie, why? We'll talk more about our biographies later, but I'm a preacher. I preach for the Westside Church of Christ, and Jamie is also a Christian, and she is, among many other things, a licensed marriage and family therapist who also has a specialty in trauma counseling. And on top of that, before she became all that, she just went through a lot of stuff. So she's been there and done that. So Jamie, why did you want to start a podcast?
Well, I think the biggest reason is to just validate people's lived experience. You mentioned early on that nobody out there is alone, right? Life has some hard seasons, even as Christians. And I think there are a lot of Christians out there who struggle to understand why they're still having difficult seasons, right? They've done everything they're supposed to do. Kind of referencing that rich young ruler who says, "But Lord, I've done all of these things and kept them since my youth," right? I think it's hard for people to understand and to accept that life is just hard. Everybody goes through seasons. Doesn't matter if it's illness or, emotional struggles or family troubles, financial troubles, marriage troubles, just all sorts of things, And not only have I walked through many of those paths myself, I sit with people almost daily who live in them and have lived in them, and they don't understand why they can't break the cycle. Um, so this is just an opportunity to, again, not only validate what people are experiencing, but maybe help them understand why. This podcast isn't necessarily meant to substitute for genuine in the office therapy, but maybe it can inspire somebody, just one somebody just one somebody's to go to an office, to make a phone call, to send an email, even if it's something they've been struggling to want to do, but just haven't had the courage to do it, or they think people are going to think a particular thing about them, right?
Yeah.
So just maybe shining a light on a lot of things here.
Yeah, I had a conversation yesterday actually with a good friend of mine, and this is a person who I won't get into all my story today. We ain't got time for that, but I have shared a great number of details with, and this is a person who I won't say is on the fence, but they have a lot of similar issues that I have, and probably in a lot of ways more so.
Mm.
And the conversation yesterday was, well, I just don't know. I don't know if I go through that, I'm scared of what I'd find. And I'm like, I get that. It's
Mhm.
scary, but it's still there. Whether
Mhm.
you deal with it or not, it's still there,
Oh
affecting
yeah.
you. And the reason in my, I use the term mental health journey. That's my terminology.
Mm.
That's
That's appropriate, by the way.
uh, that's what I consider. Uh, that's not somebody else's word, that's mine. But like, I feel like um, going on that journey has it's been a lot of times I'm like, I got it figured out, and I didn't have it figured out. I just had the next piece figured out. But a lot of times you run into somebody. I had another situation last Friday night talking to a person, and they kept they started sharing details, and I said, "Let me guess, you struggle with people pleasing," and they're like, "How you know that?" Been there, done that, got a t-shirt, wore it out, cut it up in shop rags. I mean,
Mhm.
like, and so we're not experts here, but so many people think they're alone and think I don't
Mhm.
know what's wrong with me, and I don't know that there's help, and I don't know that there's, and I'm gonna tell you, go look for a counselor and go look at all the LMFT and LPC and uh, was it
Mhm.
LC social work,
LCSW.
yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, you need a college degree to figure out which college degree person you need. I mean, it's not simple. Uh,
No.
we had an instance one time. We had an opportunity to help a gentleman who turns out was schizophrenic, and it took us all day. And I literally had a legal pad with multiple pages full of symptoms and notes. And what
Mhm.
hit me over and over again in that process as we were going through, I'm like, there's no way a sane person can barely get through this process, let alone somebody who's struggling with audio and visual hallucinations. They asked
Yep.
this person, and do you hear things and see other things that other people don't hear?" And I'm like, and I love his answer. He's like, "How do I know? I don't know
A
what
lot
you
of
hear, what
a
you
lot
don't
of
hear."
wisdom. A lot of wisdom in that
I was
statement
like,
right there. Yes.
"Yeah." So I just see a lot of struggle, and I have a lot of conversations. And I looked at Jamie one day, and I was like, "Jamie, you need a podcast. Like, people need to know about you. You helped a lot of people. Jamie helps us in our transformation through Christ ministry here in Elton, Kentucky, where I'm at." And I was like, "People need to know about you." And she kind of looked at me like, "Okay, I've been wanting to do a podcast. I ain't got no idea." And I'm like, "Bet, got you." Uh, so that's kind of why we're doing this. Real quick, I wanted to share with you kind of the title of this is kind of, I mean, it rhymes. I mean, that's important in a title, right?
Mhm.
But we picked
It's an
very
alliteration, Doug.
well, I mean,
Right? It's an
we gotta
alliteration.
have 3 points. They got to be all starting with the
Yep.
same letter and a poem at the end.
Yep. Yep. Yes.
That's the official. Anyway, I'll hush.
That's the English
We
teacher. That's the English
Yeah,
teacher requirements, which, by the way, neither of us are. So
yes. And when we get done, we gotta have fried chicken in the fellowship hall.
you
But
know it.
wounds, wisdom, and the word. So those three, those three words. Why those words? Well, wounds. There is a reason. I tell people all the time that God made us to be in community. There is a reason why if I reach out and pinch you on the arm, okay, that registers in your brain in a certain spot. Physical pain registers in a certain spot. When you are emotionally rejected, you're trying to date, you're in high school and you're trying to date this girl, and she looks at you and goes, "Pff." Well, that emotional pain registers in the same place as physical pain. Wounds.
Mm-hmm.
And I dare say, I might be going out on a limb here. I don't think I am. But everybody that you're going to meet today, and everybody, including the people you're listening to, some way, shape, or form are wounded.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of people, you'll never know it. Oh, how you doing, Dale? I'm good. I'm
Mm-hmm.
good.
Oh, I'm fine. I'm fine. I can't tell you how many times I hear that. I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm good.
I
I'm
drunk
fine. I'm okay.
I drunk myself stupid last night because, I ate
But I'm
myself,
fine.
but I'm fine. No,
Yeah.
you ain't fine. You a
I
liar.
ate my weight in Hershey bars yesterday, but I'm totally good. I'm cool.
Netflix,
I'm cool.
Netflix, gallon ice cream and chill. I mean, what you talking about?
Yeah, I mean
Um,
that fixes everything.
so wounds, right? Now, wisdom, you're gonna try to fix the wounds, and I don't know that you can completely fix them. I don't know that fix is a good word. Um, I know my personal
Well,
experience.
Doug, honestly, the journey is not about fixing the wounds. It's about allowing them to heal. That doesn't mean there's not going to be a scar, the
As
same
we say,
way it
it's
is with a physical wound.
yeah, you turn it into a scar, and then the scar becomes part of you.
Absolutely. It's just a
But
part of your story. It's just another page in your book.
it's another page in your book. So Proverbs chapter 1, hence the word. Okay. Um, this is a father writing to a son, by the way, if you've never studied the book of Proverbs. Let the wise hear and increase in learning, and the one that understands attain guidance. To understand a proverb and a saying, the words of the wise and the riddles. Now, I want you to notice verse 7. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, and fools despise wisdom and instruction. So, knowledge, wisdom, and instruction. Those three words, okay, are related. Okay, if I say that I have knowledge, you say, well, you know something. If I say, they have understanding, some translations say, or instruction, okay, then we think about that same thing, right? You know something, you've had instruction on it, you understand it, and wisdom the same. But the Bible uses three different words for a reason. Like, I know what E equals EMC squared. I know that formula, but I have no understanding of how to use it. So knowledge and understanding are different. Um, I've illustrated before, like you want to go learn to fly an airplane, you want to get your pilot's license, and you go out to the local airport, you go talk to the people, and they say, okay, yeah, write us a check, and you can come back next week, and you'll take your first flight lesson, and out there's an airplane, it'll fly. You got some knowledge, you ain't got no understanding. Next week you come back and they say, lesson number one, we're gonna walk you around. These are the ailerons and the rudder and the engine, the prop, and blah blah blah, all this stuff. So now you know some more about how the thing flies, but you can't fly it. Well, you go up. You've been taking classes for a while, and you go up with a pilot one day, and he's had some bad Mexican, and he just slumps out. You know, on the stick, and now you're in a nosedive. What do? You say, well, I'm gonna pull back. Well, that's wisdom. Wisdom is having the right knowledge and understanding and applying it at the right time. You go to Ecclesiastes 3, there's a time for everything under heaven. There's a time to cast out stones and a time to gather together stones. All these things. So when dealing with wounds, sometimes it's the wisdom is in knowing. You know what? Sometimes the best thing for me is go lay down in bed and take a nap.
Mhm.
You say, well, I hate that. I got a million things I need to get done. I don't care. That's the best thing I need right there, right then.
Yep.
What do you think, Jamie?
Oh, absolutely. I think, well, one of the first things that I typically coach people to do, especially if they are a client who has experienced a great deal of trauma in their life, is listen to your body. You know, wonderful book by Vessel Vanderkolk called The Body Keeps the Score. Um, like, love that book. It's a heavy read, full disclosure, right?
And your body does
But
keep
you
the
want to,
score.
oh, 100% it keeps the score. I can tell you stories all day long of, you know, people that I have sat with who identify a particular feeling in their body that's probably been there for years, years. And there's no physical or medical explanation for it, right? And I will tell you, word to the wise here, always exclude medical first, right? Somebody presents in my office with a particular list of symptoms and they overlap, like, yeah, absolutely, these fit into an emotional category, such as depression, right? Depression has a lot of symptoms that show up somatically or in the body, but they overlap with some medical conditions. So, a lot of times, my first question is, well, when's the last time you saw your doctor? Do you have a PCP? Right? Have you talked to him or her about this particular thing? Right? Well, no. Okay, well, let's go get that checked out, right?
Yeah.
Visit, blood work, discussion, rules it out. Okay, great. Now we know what we're dealing with, right? But all of that is because the body absolutely keeps the score. You know, it's actually a scientific fact discussed in that book that trauma is stored first in our bodies, right? Was working with a 15-year-old one time who had, well, the list was long for her, but one of the things we were particularly interested in was she'd been bullied in middle school. And we did a little brain spotting, more on that to come at a later time. But the feeling that she identified in her body came from her calves or her lower legs. Now, to fast forward and get to the meat of the story here, she had been bullied by a group of girls while she was walking around a track at school during an activity time. Right? Like, you put two and two together. The emotional effects of that bullying, of those remarks and comments that were being made to that client, got stored in those muscles in her legs because that's what she was working at the time.
Yeah. And when they started, she
That's
probably
knowledge.
tried to go even harder.
Probably walk a little faster because they were standing on one side of that track, right? And
Yeah.
she and a friend or two were walking together. So, yeah, when they started their stuff, what do you think she did? She sped up to get away from them.
Caught
Yep.
another gear.
Yep. So, I feel like that is a very, like, when you talk about knowledge is power, this absolutely applies.
Yep. Absolutely. And then, you know, of course, the word, 2 Peter 1:3, he's given us all things pertaining to life and godliness. And some people say, well, there's nothing in the Bible about mental health issues. Well, I would disagree.
What about that little verse that talks about be anxious for nothing?
Well,
Can you
and
can you
that's
help
just,
me understand that, Doug?
well, yeah. So that's a good one, actually. See, best stuff happens on the spot of the moment.
Always.
So this is Philippians 4:6, right? Do not be anxious about anything. Pause. Right? This is the Apostle Paul. Hold your hand right here. Flip to the left, not to the right. Go back to 2 Corinthians. Okay. Verse 11. And Paul's talking about these super apostles, and they want to boast about all this stuff. And, Paul says, listen, we're going to boast about stuff. I'll boast about my weakness. Are they Hebrews? This is 2 Corinthians 11, begin verse 22. Are they Hebrews? So am I. Are they Israelites? So am I. Are they offspring of Abraham? So am I. Are they servants of Christ? I'm a better one. Woo. I'm talking like a madman with far greater labors, far more imprisonments, with countless beatings, often near death. 5 times I received at the hands of the Jews, 40 lashes less one. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was stoned. 3 times I was shipwrecked. A night and a day I was adrift in the sea, on frequent journeys, in dangers from rivers, dangers from robbers, dangers from my own people, dangers from Gentiles, dangers in the city. Why don't you just tell us who you weren't in danger of, Paul? Dangers in the wilderness, danger at sea, danger from false brothers, in toil and hardship, through many sleepless nights, and hunger, thirst, often without food, and cold exposure, and apart from the other things, there is the daily pressure on me of my anxiety for all the churches. So wait a minute. You mean tell me the guy who said don't be anxious was anxious? Mm-hmm. How you think you know how to deal
Hey,
with it?
let me hit you. Let me hit you with some numbers, Doug. 2025. Okay. The National Institute of Mental Health. They're a pretty big deal. Just take a wild guess about how many adults deal with some type of anxiety disorder.
Oh, it's got to be half.
19.1% of US adults. That is about 42.5 million people.
And the other 80% ain't took a survey yet.
That's exactly right. Or they're in denial, right?
Or they lying.
Or they lying. They just straight up capping,
Oh, we
right?
good? Oh,
We
Lord.
good. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine.
Oh,
Anyway.
I love the young people. I love the young people talk. We was at camp this year and they had one. They was like picking at him, and he come out with his wet towel. He said, "Back up! I'm standing on business." Yeah.
Oh yeah. I get to hear some interesting ones from my adolescent clients. That is faux show. Yeah. Yeah.
Squirrel.
Yes.
Well, and to go back to Philippians 4:6, 42 million people. Okay, and this is a first century problem. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
To understand what Paul is saying, you got to understand what the word supplication means. Philippians 4:6. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication. Now, what's the difference between prayer and supplication? You say, well, supplication is a prayer. Well, yeah. Once again, Holy Spirit used different words. They're different for a reason. Supplication means to beg and plead God over a felt need that you have. Paul says you can't stop from being anxious, but instead of dwelling on the anxiety, instead of, choosing to stay in this state and focus on this thing, take this anxiety that you feel and pour it out over here. That's what he's telling them. And the man is not saying this.
Give it to God. Give it to me, right? That's what God is saying here. Give it to me. I can handle it.
And this is coming from a man who got all kind of anxiety. It's like being a good leader. You don't want to follow a leader that's not willing to do what they ask you to do. If you're in a ditch digging company and your boss he's got his Gucci loafers on and ain't never dug a ditch in his life, you don't want to hear him say dig faster. But if he's an 80-year-old man who could outdig you any day of the week and has dug more ditches than you'll ever dig in your life, and he says, "Come on, let's move," you're gonna move because he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah. I heard an interesting. Well, I didn't hear it. I read it somewhere that this interesting idea that was Paul's thorn in the flesh.
Possible.
I have another another theory too. It's probably why I wasn't married. Because what kind of anxiety does a wife add to stuff?
No. Mm-mm. Quit it, Jamie. Quit it.
Mm-hmm. Just telling the truth here. Just telling the truth.
So that's why those 3 words. Plus they rhyme and it sounds cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So kind of next on our list is, we kind of told you what we're doing, and we kind of told you something about ourselves already, but, uh, the reason why, and I don't say we're qualified to talk about this. Well, I mean, she's qualified. She's got credentials. I don't. I'm just Batman and Robin. Okay. Um, I'm here because I can work a computer, do a podcast, and I'm just about the right amount of screwed up to try to help other people. But um, I've been preaching now for 8 years at Westside Church of Christ in lovely Elkton, Kentucky. The big metropolis of Elkton, Kentucky, which is hilarious if you've ever been to Elkton, Kentucky, because we don't have a Walmart. If you've got a Walmart right now that you can drive to in your town, you're blessed. We've got $5 stores. I'm thinking if we get 7, it's a holy number. We can trade them in for something. I mean, just
Maybe
uh,
might be able to barter for a Walmart at that point.
what can I get for these, master?
Yep.
But for a long time, I was sitting in the office 5 days a week. I had my to-do list, and I had all this stuff that I was doing and justifying my paycheck, I guess, and doing what I knew to do. I didn't know how to do anything else than what I was doing, and was blessed through polishing the pulpit and some other means to meet some people that kind of changed the way we did ministry. Jesus went about to meet physical needs. Why did Jesus feed the multitude? Most of them's going to walk away. But he met physical needs to gain an opportunity to meet spiritual needs. And that's changed the way we've done ministry. We have a program on Monday night that I didn't start. One of our elders now, Tony Deason, maybe you'll get to meet him at some point, started. And it's turned out to be an icebreaker for the church. We've met a lot of people, had a lot of Bible studies. And we've had on more than one instance, somebody will run across someone and they're a member of another church in town, across town. Okay. Read into that what you will. But they'll tell that person, you need to call Westside. They'll help you. I mean, we ain't the biggest show in town. We ain't got a gym. We ain't got a lot of programs. But, Jesus said the fields are wide unto harvest. And when we see that image in our mind, we see that beautiful field and the winds blowing, and all the little blooms just popped out on the top of the plants. And that's so pretty. Well, it is on top of the field. Down in the bottom of that field, it is a nasty mess. And in the first century, when Jesus is talking about bringing in the sheaves and being a harvester, he wasn't talking about jumping in the air conditioned combine and just drive through the field. A lot of people think the church building's a combine. Mm-mm. The way they harvested in the first century was they took a bag and tied it around them and they walked through that muddy mess. So we've helped some people with some messes. We've made a few of our own along the way. But that's kind of my story and why I'm here. Jamie, you want to give some background?
Yeah. So, again, licensed marriage and family therapist. I'm licensed in both Tennessee and Kentucky. Been licensed for just over a year. Celebrated that anniversary.
Been practicing longer now.
Oh yeah. It's a whole process to get licensed, right? And that process involves working with clients. So I'm not necessarily a new kid on the block. I have been working with clients for a little over 5 years altogether. Um, got my degree from Trevecca Nazarene University in Nashville. It's a master's in marriage and family therapy. And just a little side note, all that really means is it's how I'm trained, right? So the letters behind the name, do they matter? In some situations, in some instances, sure they do. But ultimately, the qualifications are very similar between all of us in terms of how we're trained and meet licensure requirements. But Basically, I'm what you call a systems therapist. So I'm not just looking at that one individual person who's sitting in my office. Yeah, I want to know everything I can know about them, but I want to know about their family. I want to know about their work environment. I want to know about their, extended family, their coworker relationships, um, their friendships,
Because it all matters.
because it all matters, right? All of those are systems, and then the conversation will always turn to their food, okay? And what that stands for is family of origin. That means where you came from, right? So when you're thinking in, if you want to think in terms of that nature versus nurture debate, it's both. It's both, right? Are people born with particular personality traits? 100% they are. But the environment that those people grow up in other words, their food, can activate or leave dormant particular things, right? So that's why it is valid. It's not about taking a client to the past or dragging them back there and making them live there. In contrast, it is about learning about them. So that is what the marriage and family therapy training is centered on, right? It's about systems. I'm a systems therapist. So uh, in addition to that, however, I have been trained in EMDR, that is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, as well as brain spotting. They are kind of cousins, or you might say two horns on the same goat if you're from around these parts. Um, yeah, we should have flashed up a picture of a goat. Anyway, they are both that well, let's see, substantiated treatments for trauma, especially EMDR. EMDR has been around a little longer and has had more studies done. So it's probably a bit more credentialed than brain spotting. But brain spotting is just as effective and honestly more so for some people. Some people do better with brain spotting than they do with EMDR and vice versa. But I would say going through those trainings in addition to my just schooling, it has really helped me understand the brain and the brain on trauma, right? When you talk about trauma responses, where those originate from, why they are there, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a real thing. It is absolutely a real thing.
It's absolutely a real thing.
Society It is absolutely a real thing. Society is not always supportive of that, right? They tend to label it as something else. And it's just not. It's real. It is valid, and it needs to be healed. It needs to be healed. Trauma will absolutely always come back to bite you. Um, and I have encountered people who thought they processed it. Maybe they've been through a different type of therapy treatment. There's a
Yeah.
load of them out there, right? I could spit off an
Yeah.
alphabet full of acronyms right now. Um, and they all have a place, by the way, right? Like that they all fit somewhere. Um, but at the end of the day, they don't all treat trauma. They may treat symptoms of trauma.
Yeah.
But in terms of correcting the effects of that trauma, not all treatments are created equal. So, all that to say, I feel very called to the work that I do. Um, I'm in it because I want to help people. I'm in it because I love people. Because I want people, and keep in mind, yeah, I consider myself to be a Christian therapist, but I don't only accept Christian clients. If someone comes into my office and, typically part of my intro is I'm a Christian. It's a part of who I am. You're going to hear it in my language at times. If it offends you, or if it is not something, if you do not want me to use the word God in session, you just need to let me know that. It doesn't change a thing about me and who I am, right? And I've had people say, I don't want no part of that. Okay, great. That's fine. That's your prerogative. But Doug, it's always been my goal to be, if that person sitting in front of me never encounters God in any other way except by sitting across from me,
Yep.
I want that. I want that. I invite it, and I and I yeah, that's a big part of my purpose.
Yeah, and I see that. You know, I don't care in sharing that. One of the reasons me and Jamie knew each other before she became a counselor. She was I guess you were a hot shot driver when I first met you, right?
I was,
You remember the
let's see,
vans? Like,
yes. If anybody has ever watched Shipping Wars, that is the life that I lived for about 3.5, 4 years. Yeah,
So we both
expedite.
attended
That's
the
what you call it.
same congregation in White House, and then Jamie became a counselor, and I went into ministry, and uh, and Jamie's been able to use her skill set not only help me at times, but also, like I say, we brought her on to help us. We do a lot of, you call it counseling with people, but you get the point. It's like, dude, I'm above my head. I need some help. Uh, and so, I can speak firsthand to Jamie and her experience. And one of the things I want to bring out too while you were talking, from the little research that I've done, I've looked into, family systems and, those kind of things. And I'm going to use the word psychotherapy. I don't know if it's the right word,
It is.
but
It's it's talk therapy / psychotherapy. It's one and the same.
But a lot of that started, one of the things, the licensed marriage family therapists, licensed professional counselors, licensed clinical social workers, all those, they're in this realm that come out of kind of a new wave, if you will, of thought. Like mental health treatment, 40s, 30s, 40s, even going back, kind of the underlying idea originally is what's wrong with you. Now, if you've got bipolar, or if you've got something chemically wrong with you, there's something wrong with you, and you can put a drug in your body and it changes. Okay. And some people, that's absolutely the issue. But for the vast majority of people, the question is not what's wrong with you. The question is what happened to you. And that's where the family systems and the licensed marriage, this person with a different family, she talking about food. Some people got good food and some people got bad food. It's like bad Chinese. It hits you the wrong way. This person with a different family or a different work environment or a different, whatever, they'd be different. There's different external forces. So sometimes, the medical issue, there's something wrong with you. But when you run out of things that could be wrong with you, then the question becomes, what happened to you? And that's a different question.
Yeah, you guys in your work there at Transformation have probably encountered people, or even in your personal life, sometimes they get labeled as a doctor chaser, right? They go from provider to provider, from doctor to doctor, office to office, just wanting somebody to figure out what's wrong with them. Now, believe me, there is a percentage of those people who are chasing bad things, and I completely acknowledge that. But sometimes they're chasing a diagnosis that can't be given by an MD,
Right,
right?
because it's not
When
a
the
medical
tests are
issue.
all exactly, when the tests are all run and the scans have all been done and the different, medications have been tried, and they still are experiencing this set of symptoms.
And it's a
Okay, now you
it's a
have to,
real experience.
it absolutely is a real and valid experience. Um, and basically you're left with what happened to you, because here's what you got to understand: the events of your life, they do affect those chemicals in your head. There's certain things about those processes, and I feel like this is probably something we'll get into a little deeper somewhere down the road, in a
Yeah.
future episode. But those processes, while they were put in place by God, and doesn't mean that they're not misfiring from time to time, but it's what you do with those processes. And by the way, what you do with them is what you're trained to do with them, or what you teach yourself to do with them, because you've had to live in survival mode for so long.
Yeah, I've talked with people, and it was like, they have this. I don't even want to use the word habit. It's a cycle. It's like a mental rut. Okay,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
neuroplasticity is a concept. But I said, when you're 13 or 14 or 18 and you're surviving, you're trying to survive. The thing that you developed helped you survive. It was necessary and needed
Mm-hmm.
for that point in your life.
In that moment. Yeah.
Even though we would look at it and say, it's bad, but like you didn't have a good family, or you were on your own. So like, of course you did that.
Yep.
I mean, and so many times we will look back and blame ourselves. Why'd I do that? Because you were surviving.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
One of the things that we do in therapy is we celebrate that. We celebrate the fact that you survived. We celebrate that piece of yourself that stood up and took care of you when you needed it. The problem comes when you're now more adultish and that thing ain't working anymore. Or now that thing is causing you problems in your work, in your relationships, in your day to day life.
did you hear about the last Japanese soldier from World War
Mm-mm,
II? Okay,
mm-mm.
so I'm going to tell a story and use illustration. Um, I use illustration all the time. Your brain has an alarm system. Back in the,
Yep.
I'm an 80s, 90s kid. Back in the day, if you had some money, you would install an alarm system on your car before they come on every one of them.
Mm,
And if you set the thing too sensitive, like you could walk by, you could drive a car by and it'd go off. Okay. In World War II, of course, the Japanese had soldiers everywhere. Okay. All these little islands. Okay. And of course, they didn't have text messages or, whatever. So when the war ended, there was a guy on a Rhode Island somewhere, and he had a couple of guys with him. But literally, he never got an official message from HQ saying the war's over. And he kept on fighting up until the 70s. I think it was
wow.
1972. They found this guy's commanding officer because he would like attack the townspeople. Like he was living off the land, had been there for 30 something years, and still just attacking whatever come along. And they go find this guy, as they figure out who he is, they go find his commanding officer who happens to still be alive, put him on an airplane, fly him out there, and he's like, "You're done." And the guy's like, "Okay, I'm gonna go home." And, your brain's
Yeah.
got the same thing.
Yep.
I was in danger. I kicked in. I protected you. I don't know what to do with this. So,
We're just going to keep doing it.
mm-hmm.
Yep. Yep. In today's terminology, that would be called a trauma response in a lot of situations. And, you talk about that alarm system of the brain. Again, a topic for another day, because it can turn into a pretty lengthy discussion. But,
Mm-hmm.
you know, trauma not only turns that alarm system on, but it keeps it stuck in the on position. So,
Firmly stuck in the old position.
firmly stuck in the on position. So,
All right.
again,
So we have completely chased rabbits, but we've talked about wounds. We've talked about wisdom. So let's talk about a little work. We told you that we want to leave you some hope today. And I want to share with you a quick story. Well, it's not a story, it's a real life account, but this is Paul in Acts. Okay. And of course, you study Paul, he goes around the world 3 times, and winds up basically locked up on false pretenses. Okay. And in Acts 25, starting in verse number 8, Paul argued in his defense, neither against the law of the Jews nor against the temple have I, or nor against Caesar have I committed any offense. But Festus, wishing to do the Jews a favor, said to Paul, do you wish to go to Jerusalem and there be tried on the charges before me? So they said, Paul, do you want us to send you back to Jerusalem? He's like, no. Paul said, I'm standing before Caesar's tribunal where I ought to be tried. The Jews have done nothing. To the Jews I have done no wrongs. As for yourself, as you yourself know very well, if then I'm a wrongdoer and have committed anything in which I deserve to die, I do not seek to escape death. But if there is nothing to their charges against me, no one can give me up to them. I appeal to Caesar. Then Festus, when he had conferred with his council, answered, to Caesar you have appealed, to Caesar you shall go. So Paul, being a Roman citizen, had the ability to basically appeal to the Supreme Court, is what we call it today in America. So that, of course, is going to require a little boat ride. You got him over in Acts chapter 27, and Paul starts to take this boat ride. And around verse 9, they get hung up. Okay, they're having some trouble traveling, and the journey's taking longer than it should have. And Paul's going to tell them basically, hey guys, winter's coming. It's not a good idea for us to keep traveling. And 9 through 12, they basically say, no, we're going. The owner of the boat says, sure, come on, I'll cash your check. Let's go. Well, they get hung in a storm. Okay, I'm going to pick up verse 13 of Acts chapter 27. Now, when the south wind blew gently, supposing they had obtained their purpose, they weighed anchor and sailed along the creek close to the shore. But soon a tempestuous wind, called a nor'easter, struck down from the land. And when the ship was caught and could not face the wind, we gave way to it and were driven along. So they're basically going backwards now. When the ship was caught and could not face the wind, we gave way and were driven along. Running under the lee of a small island called Claudia, we managed with difficulty to secure the ship's boat, so that'd be like the lifeboat. After hoisting it up, they used supports to undergird the ship. Then, fearing that they would run aground on Sardis, they lowered the gear and thus were driven along. So drop anchor and you're still getting dragged, okay? I mean, you're fighting this tooth and toenail. Since we were violently storm-tossed, they began the next day to jettison the cargo. And on the third day, they threw the ship's tackle overboard with their own hands. So the tackle is like what you raise the sail with. Pretty important stuff, right? You need some ropes on a boat. You throwing the ropes overboard. Verse 20. When neither sun nor stars appeared for many days, and no small tempest lay on us, all hope of our being saved was at last abandoned. Look at me in the eyes, okay? Listen to me. The last thing they threw overboard was hope. You been there? Maybe you're there right now. Maybe you've been listening to us for 48 minutes going, that's me. And I don't know what to do. And I ain't got no hope. They threw hope overboard. But I want you to catch this. You go on down to verse 39. And 39 down through, I'll pick up verse 41. But striking a reef, they ran the vessel aground. The bow struck and remained immovable. Stern was being broken up by the surf. So the ship is caught. And it's buried up in the nose, buried up in the ground. The back, the waves hitting it, beating it to death. Okay. Time to get off the boat. The soldiers' plan was to kill the prisoners lest any should swim away and escape. But the centurion, wishing to save Paul, kept them from their plan. He ordered that those who could swim to jump overboard first and make it to land, and the rest on planks and on pieces of the ship. And so it was, they were all brought safely to land. So verse 44, they make it. So let me ask you this question. What good did it do them to abandon hope, to throw it overboard? And the answer to that question is it did not do them a lick of good. Didn't do them any good. They threw hope overboard and they still got home. I don't know what your situation is. I don't know what you're struggling with. I don't know what awful, horrible things have been done to you. But I'm going to tell you today, it does you no good to give up hope. Don't do it. There's always hope. What do you think, Jay?
Well, the thing that stands out the most to me is, and I think it's true in that story as in life, and that's that hope was the last thing that they let go of, but it was really the first thing that they needed. And people who wind up in my office, Doug, typically they wait too long. And maybe they wait long enough that they have abandoned hope. Um, well, I'm here to tell you and everybody that may be listening, we can hold that for you. I tell my clients that all the time. Look, you may not have any hope, but I do.
Yeah.
And I can hold that for you until you are able to find it yourself. So, anybody that might be listening, there is hope. There's always hope. I understand your circumstances could have absolutely robbed you of yours.
Yeah. And I know why
And I'm
you may feel
sorry.
hopeless. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you don't know our story. You don't know us from Adam, as the old saying goes. But I know part of her story, and I know part of her husband's story. And they absolutely hung on and come out. And I know part of my story. Uh, that's a whole other story. Um, but I want you to look at us like, well, they're putting on a podcast about mental health. They got it all together. I feel personally, I'm going to speak to Jamie. I feel personally that I punted it, bloated up enough that that's why I feel that I can talk about it. Not because I've done it perfectly, but because I've run it plumb off the rails more than once. And it's not a competition over who's more messed up. You know, a lot of times, sometimes people even say, well, you know, people got more bigger problems than I do. Well, that saying doesn't help them or you. Just
No, it's
saying.
because both of your experiences are valid.
Just saying, don't give up hope. And I know what it feels like for it to feel hopeless. Don't give up hope. I'm pleading with you.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of future plans, I guess. We'll have like an official email and whatsoever. But I tell you, if you need some help, somebody listen to you, I can put my email in the show notes. I don't care to share my. It's been published in every bulletin for 8 years. It's all over the internet anyway. Uh, but you know, just put like wounds, wisdom in the word in the subject line. I get a bajillion emails, so do that to make it stand out. But uh, I know in the future we
Well, and
plan on. Go ahead.
I was going to mention that kind of future plans. We want to do a Q&A day, so kind of be thinking about if there are, if there is something that you just are curious about, biblically related, mental health related, life related, or I mean, heck, if you just want to tell us a funny joke, we're good with that too. We're all about some jokes around here.
A merry
Doug
heart
and
does
I
good like a
love.
medicine.
Absolutely. Sometimes Doug and I run a little short on them, so we appreciate any help we get with that. But just be thinking about if there's something you're just have some curiosity about. So we'd love to get that input, and you can remain anonymous if you so choose. So just be looking for that email address to be popping up soon.
Yeah, we'll have a website, and this will be published on all the platforms. And like I say, I think to start with, we're going to pick some topics and go through stuff and kind of lay a foundation. But then I also know there's a list we have, kind of a short list of people who have dealt with some stuff.
Hard things.
Yeah.
Hard things.
And we're going to try to talk them into coming in and bearing their soul, whatever they feel comfortable doing. But there's a lot of that wisdom, and everybody's different. But like, you take somebody that's several years on the other side of something, what would you tell yourself? If you could go back and talk to yourself a day after it happened, or I'm thinking of people who lost spouses. We both know an individual lost a father. OCD, anxiety, depression. You run the gamut. Schizophrenia.
Addiction.
Addiction, lots of addiction. Which, by the way, addiction is not a problem. It's a poor solution, not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is the problem.
So it's a symptom. It's a symptom. Mm-hmm.
So, what do you think, Jamie? We're right at 56 minutes. I think
it's a wrap.
I think we have thoroughly introduced the introduction.
Maybe a little too much.
Squirrel.
Yeah. Every once in a while.
Every once in a while, you upgrade to rabbits. Those are the best kind of chase.
They're fast, that's for sure.
I was talking about somebody the other day, and Netta said something, and I was like, "Their squirrel has squirrels."
Oh yeah, I know people like that too. Yep.
It's all right. Without medication, my squirrel's got squirrels. All right. Well, we love you. Appreciate you. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for taking a chance on our podcast. We're going to try to shoot to release weekly, but hope to see you on the next episode of Wounds, Wisdom, and the Word. Love you. Peace.
Peace.
Wounds, wisdom, and the Word. Wounds, wisdom, and the Word.